Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fridays with Sue and Steph. And I meant to look up the Bitly. All right, I'll do that while you're talking. So we are today talking about college, and I've sent 5 kids to college. Stephanie sent 3. That's a collective 8 experiences, and I think we would both admit that we would make tweaks if we had it to do over again. So that's what we're here to share with you. Like, the idea that going through it is rough and it's hard to get it right the first time, the 5th time, anytime you do it. But talking to people who've already been through it, like anything else in parenting, it gives you like a different perspective on it. So the first thing that I was thinking I want to share is the idea. So we were just doing a podcast with with Phyllis Fagel about peer pressure. And I was thinking how much peer pressure there is for parents when it comes to college admissions. And I mean, the negative way of saying that is like this bragging rights, but I don't think it's just about bragging. I think it's about a story we've been told throughout raising our kids, what success looks like and who isn't looking for success.
Yeah.
So I would want to pull back from how I define success. Like I had it at least for the first one, probably a little for the second one, a real clear sense of what success looked like. And then I saw with both of them that in their experiences that I was wrong, that it's kind of like getting engaged versus the marriage. Like people celebrate the engagement and it's a huge deal. And even the wedding, right? Such a big
Yeah.
deal. And then there's living in that relationship, right? Then there's the tough work of being in it.
We don't have time for that on this podcast.
But the idea that like if I had pivoted before we even started this to change the definition of what success looked like, I think that it would have been a healthier house. We'll just put it
Interesting. Yep. Okay, that's a good one. I like that one. Mine would be start later. So which we learned with each kid. Like that first one, I remember we were coming back from somewhere. He was a sophomore in high school. Maybe we were driving to Philly and we stopped at like Penn State campus, just like be like, oh, go see what a campus looks like. We didn't do an official tour. We didn't, but I'm like, that was kind of stupid. Like I think even from senior year applying, and I learned that, right? That they're such a different kid, even from the time they are applying. They're not going to school for a year later. A year from 17 to 18 percentage wise is such a huge chunk of their lives. So I remember someone saying somewhere along the way, like, it's sort of like a pregnancy, like, except you have the due date. So the due date would be when they're starting college. So however, whenever you start, that's how long the process will be. So you know what the end date is, like, so you can make that pregnancy as long as you want. And I thought that was really good advice. And I'm not sure, again, it's in retrospect, like I probably even knew it with the first, but you can't help yourself, or I couldn't help myself, I should say.
Yeah. So the only caveat I would put to that is if it's a first gen situation, because you'll be hearing a podcast that we just recorded, which was fantastic with 2 Black men who wrote a book, Black Families, College Admissions for Black Families, or
Great
something.
Conversation. Oh my God.
And so that should be out like in maybe 2 weeks.
Maybe a week from Tuesday.
Anyway, what's so different is that college is embedded in my family's conversation. So wearing things from our alumni or talking about a reunion or having friends from college. And if you're in a family where this would be the first generation to go to college, starting earlier is really important. Putting it out there as a possibility for them, right?
Yeah.
Like, so in our houses, I mean, I started really late, even with my first one. I just felt like I don't know where the decision came from. It wasn't from good parenting. It might have been from tired parenting.
Right.
But I just really felt like, and I got worse with every kid. Like the last kid, I said, well, even the 4th kid, I said, let's go see the schools you get into.
Yeah. And we did that mainly with our second one. And that was more personality driven, I think. I think we also knew quote knew that was going to be harder, and he wasn't like, I want to go see everything. And so much, that's another thing I think, which is really important. Like if I think back to like kind of what went well, or what I would tell parents went well, or what could go well, is the kids are all each so different with it. So it's not even like you can run the same process with each kid. And I think like no different than anything we talk about is like looking at the kid in front of you and trying to parent them for what's best for them. And I also knew like for that one, like just seeing it once he was in what was real, like he's so practical. They'd be like, well, why would I even go see it if I don't get in? So some of that is driven just by how he views life, you know?
Yeah, my thought was, having gone through this enough times before, number 4 was, why fall in love with a place that doesn't want to be in a relationship with you?
And that would be like what he would say. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just see what Christina has to say. I've had to pivot for my son, as I thought a 4-year was the only choice, but he truly wants a community college for baseball. So now I'm helping him find the best fit as a community college, and it's okay.
That's
Actually,
awesome.
It's great because it's his choice. Okay, Christina, great mom, and great advice to other parents out there. I would say, Christina, in my house, the one thing I did that I felt proud of, which I think it might have been a function of just a lot of kids running around in a busy house, and a firstborn who took everything in life like as a job for herself. Like I didn't have to participate. She ran the whole process herself, kind of like Christina's talking about her kid driving it here. And so I loved that, because I started to feel like if you can't get yourself into college, maybe you're not really ready.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I was thinking, and also you and I talk about this all the time. For me, especially because my oldest was 11 when we started your teen. So I really raised all of them through this lens. Right. And I remember my third one saying something came up about some college, and I made a comment, and she goes, ugh, you're so annoying. You think every college is a good college. So I went so far my pendulum swung so far, because I would say like every college has something for some kid. Like, so you really have to look at what that college, like there's no such thing as a good college and a bad college. And like, that just doesn't exist. So I did a really good job driving home that, almost to an annoying point where I think they didn't take anything I said right. Like they couldn't believe anything I said, because I really did say, well, oh no, they have a great program for this, or this one has a great program for that,
Yeah. I mean, there are schools that I've never heard of that are very particular for something new. Like, for example, gaming, where I'd be like, wow, I never heard of that school. And someone would say, well, they're top in the country for gaming. And it's like, okay, of course I've never heard of that. That was not an interest in my life.
Exactly.
I want to just say that the idea of a fit, like that there being many, many colleges out there, and what is the good fit for your kid, is something that we're going to discuss on the second week of Destination College, which this is our 3rd year of doing it online. We did it in person pre-COVID, and we took the show on the road. And this year is our 3rd year doing it online. We have an extraordinary lineup. You would agree, right, Steph? Like crazy, the top of the top. And we also have feedback from other years that just like it makes me so motivated to do it again. So one of them, this is from Lee S. She wrote, my mind and heart have shifted from worried and anxious to inspired and excited. Thank you a million times. So I'm going to put the link in the comments, and if I can find the link, and just check out the page, even if you're not sure what we're doing. It's called Destination College 2023. And it's really about giving you an 8-week experience with about 18 experts, different experts. And you're going to hear kind of, all the questions that you have about the college admissions process. For example, how to pay for college, right? And this is always one of my favorites. I love this session. I can't be on it this year because of availability. Someone else is going to do that session. But I always wondered if I could know what happens on the other side of this story, right? It seemed like this big mystery that parents and kids just didn't have a right to know. But as it turns out, all colleges will tell you how they do their process. So we have 3 people from very diverse schools that are going to come on and talk about how a big public institution, a big private institution, selective, and a highly selective small school deal with the admissions process once the application comes in. So take a look at Destination College. The link is in the comments, and we will go back to the show. Regular scheduled programming.
Okay, wait. So I thought this was so interesting. So was it? It must have been for the podcast. And if you listen to our podcast, you'll hear this in a couple of weeks. The gentleman who wrote the admissions book for Black families that we talked about yesterday.
Also, let me just say, Tim, one of the people on the podcast, is week 2 of Destination College.
Oh,
so you could see him, you could listen to him on the podcast and then come hear his wisdom.
That is right. It'll be like you know him already. But he gave some stat about, Sue, maybe you'll remember it. It was like, oh my goodness. Maybe 60% of colleges have an admission rate of 85% or higher. It was something like, it was not the stats you hear all the time, and you're going to hear increasingly. I'm looking at the date. We're February 24th, and you're going to hear these stats increasingly over the next 6 weeks as all of the schools report, right? And we're watching these acceptance rates plummet, et cetera. Like, there's so much more to the story, I guess is what I'm getting at. And there can be so much more. And that's why I think Destination College is so great, because these experts have their eye on the full picture and not necessarily the 20 schools you keep hearing about. And I love that conversation. I think.
And also we have a very clear lens on how we feel about everything we put out into the community of parenting teens.
Yeah.
And it's always to take it down, not to like exacerbate what you're already living with. And every single person joining us as an expert has the same goal, that we reduce stress in your house and in no way create more stress. And so like, that's why I love the quote from that woman, from Lee, because it did just that for her. She came in like, I need info, and left feeling like I've got what I need to make this work with my kid.
Yeah. I do genuinely feel even though, like, yes, we went on campus, like I was saying, when we opened up, like we went on campus, but I was never stressed about, I always felt like I had this and again, I think this is probably because of the work we do, like, and we've been really lucky to have exposure to these experts, is that I always felt like there were going to be lots of choices. I never felt like, oh my God, he's not going to get in anywhere. And it's so like, I think just having that broader view and allowing yourself as a parent, like I always think about like, how do we swing the doors open for our kids? If we can, like I always talk about like leaving doors open before you close them. And so I always had like that mental picture in my head, like, how do you leave as many doors open for your kid? And, there was a quote, Sue, do you remember years ago when we used to do the live college event? And one of the counselors, I think it was Terry McHugh, who used to say her favorite moment was when a senior that she had been advising would be so excited about where they were going to college. And they would say, and I never even heard of this school a year ago. And I love that. I always go back to them like, that is such a great, like, that's great headspace, I think as a parent to hear something like that, like that your kid can be so excited about something that they didn't even know was a possibility.
That's great. Okay. So let's just give them some practical tips. I would say, like, number one is, and this has come up over and over again with experts, try to restrict the conversation in your house to 1 day a week.
Yes.
And do that with your kid. Like, all this should be done with your kid, but say, hey, I think I'm overwhelming you with the questions. Would you like it if we just put aside a time? Sunday evening is the typical one. So I love that one. And then this is one I never did, and I can't believe I never did it, but
that's why you
need what?
That's why you need a 6th kid.
Oh, I would be such a good parent for the 6th kid.
Yeah, I'd be so good.
Excellent. Oh, yeah, we could nail it. Anyway, so I never got any roommate information. Like, in case of an emergency,
yes,
I would say, well, first of all, I'd say Life 360. Get Life 360 because it is a way to stay in touch. And we ran a campaign for Life 360, and we heard stories about people's lives being saved because of Life 360, but also get your kids' roommates' numbers and contact information. And I would even add, get their parents' information, because we do have easy access to information. And if you're having one of those nights where, you think something's amiss and something's amiss, I have kids who went to college where I had nobody to call. And fortunately, very fortunately, I can say now that nothing happened that I needed that for, but I would do it differently now. I would absolutely get that information.
I agree. And it's funny. I learned it on the second kid. So first kid went off to college. A friend of mine, her kid had like a scary episode. She couldn't get a hold of the kid and she realized she had nothing. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I'm telling everyone, get your roommates in, right? And I was like, oh my God, you're so smart. So then learned that on the next ones. But wait, there was something else you said. Oh, I think the other thing is like, and I get it. Like our kids are so, when I say I'm going to even go with the ones that are a little younger than our kids, Sue, that are just heading off to college because they really have grown up with all these location services so much more than say like your oldest, my oldest, etc. Is I think a lot of parents are using Life 360 already. Or the other thing I said when we dropped our youngest off to college was I got her roommate's information. And the other thing was I said, somebody should know your location. And I just want to know who that is. I don't need your location, but I need to know how to get in touch. And she's like, oh yeah, Eliza has it, or this one, right? So just having access to that, but also like, I'm never planning on using this, right? God forbid. I'm like, give me your roommate's information and make sure you give ours to your roommate. You know, they have it, but I never had to use it, which was good, but I had it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like the world of telling us to let go of our kids and the world of telling us to let our kids fail. Nothing's absolute.
Right.
So in all of those scenarios, you can take it like to the very literal and say, okay, they went to college and I let them soar or fail on their own. But in today's world, I don't have to do that. I also don't have to invade their space, but I could have a little sense of security that I could reach somebody.
Yeah, it's a good one. That's a really good one.
Anything else to add?
I think the other thing I learned after was that with each kid, I would say no news was good news. Whereas I thought no news was, oh my God, are they sitting alone? Oh my God, what's going on? And I learned with each of them that like it truly 3 for 3, no news was good news because when they're unhappy, you know. Well, at least for my grade.
I just want to offer a caveat because you know your kids. And if your kids are like very communicative with you, and then you don't hear from them, that could be a sign also.
True.
Yeah, know your kids. And like we hear this over and over again as like, you know, your kids best. And if something changes, the way they communicate with you, the way they look, the hygiene, any of those things, then you'll know, and you'll know when to worry. But if you don't have that, you're really lucky. If you have the reverse, where not hearing from them. I knew in my house, not for all my kids, but for some of my kids who would call me like every day for the first month, and walking between classes, any of the awkward moments when you feel like you're supposed to be in friendship, but you hadn't yet gotten to that point. So they would fill that awkwardness by calling me. And then like that, I could tell dissipate and I'd be like, okay, they're making friends. But again, that wasn't true for all of my kids.
Yeah.
So anyway, we hope you'll join us for Destination College. It's one of our highlights of the year. We are always so proud to put it out there. And the link is in the comments. So we hope to see you there, and everybody have a great week.
Bye. Or weekend.